To the controversy surrounding the decision to use a sceptre made from ivory in the coronation. GB News viewers can see the sceptre in question right now. It will be held by the Queen Consort during the ceremony, soon to be Queen, of course. There had been speculation that it would not be used, particularly given that Prince William is involved in a campaign to stop the illegal trafficking of animal parts, such as elephant ivory, through his organisation United for Wildlife. King Charles himself is also involved in the prevention of use of ivory, despite the fact that his wife will be clutching onto a piece of ivory during the coronation. With me in the studio now is someone who proved to be a fan favourite last time when we were talking bizarrely about tomatoes that don't scream. He's vegan educator. It's Ed Winters, also known by some as Earthling Ed. How are you?
I'm very well, Patrick. It's good to see you again.
Do you care about whether or not Queen Camilla holds a bit of ivory?
I think it's about the principle. She's glamorising something which, in this day and age, we shouldn't be glamorising anymore. And I think the majority of people in Britain are against the use of ivory now. So it speaks to, I suppose, this out-of-touchness that sometimes is labelled against the royal family. So I also think it speaks to a bigger question, which is tradition and how we view animals within this idea of upholding tradition.
Well, it is that point of tradition that the argument for using this will be this is a tradition that dates back, I've got the date here, to 1685 it was made, and then it was used after that. So people will say, look, this is just tradition. This elephant has been dead a very long time.
Sure.
And possibly doesn't care about the whole thing anymore. Why not just use it? It looks nice. It is part of tradition.
Well, it's about protecting other animals from also being turned into ivory. And also, I guess the question of tradition was always one of morality. You know, is something ethical and moral simply because it's traditional? I mean, I know we had a little back and forth last time. I'd love to maybe pose that question to you then. I mean, obviously it is traditional, but does that in and of itself make it ethical?
I just don't know why people should necessarily care about this particular thing right now, because when we have a look at the fact that we've got, you know, the Ivory Act of 2018, which is a near total ban. So what have we done today now to do? We have sorted it, and the royal family, at least as ceremonial figurehead, some would say, have been pivotal in helping to drive forward things like the prevention of the ivory trade, etc. So, for me personally, I don't know why there should be a massive public backlash to this thing that already exists. It's not like we made it. It's already, whether we see it or not on the day, it's still sitting in a cupboard.
But it also empowers poachers to think, well, hang on a minute, if the royal family of Great Britain are promoting this, then what's wrong with us going out there and producing more? So it's about how it's viewed on the national stage as well. So I think we should definitely think about that. But I also think there is the wider point of how the royal family interacts with animals. I'm a massive critic of them outside of just the sceptre because of their hunting, because of everything else.
I was about to ask about this, because there will be a lot of horses, for example, being ridden on the day, and even a horse-drawn carriage at numerous points, quite famously, 2 of them. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think when we view something from the position of an animal, we should think about it from their best interests. You know, does the horse want to be parading through London? Does the animal want to be hunted by the royal family? Do lambs want to be slaughtered for Easter? I think when we think about traditional practices, we should view them from the perspective of the victim in that scenario. And when we do that, it's easier to empathise with what they're enduring and think, well, hang on a minute, perhaps we should think about their best interests and not exploit them for something that undeniably they don't need to be involved in.
Can I ask you a bit about how you just view the royal family? Are you pro-monarchy or not?
No, I'm not pro-monarchy, which I know is probably not the answer that a lot of viewers on this channel would want to hear. I believe, like traditions, the use of animals, that tradition should always be updated and culture should modernise. And so whilst I'll definitely applaud any modernisation that happens in the royal family, I think there's something traditional or something that's fundamentally archaic, such as, you know, the sceptre being one
the reason why I asked that was I just wondered whether or not, if you just oppose the whole thing anyway, are you maybe in the best position to talk about it from this perspective?
Well, I think you probably know me quite well by this point, Patrick, that I oppose the use of animals, whether it's done by you know, a family who are obviously very wealthy and inherited inordinate amounts of wealth, or people who are just regular like you and I who don't need to participate in animal exploitation. The position I have is not one that's biased against the royal family because of who they are. It's a position of saying, hang on a minute, if we can stop the glorification of animal abuse and remove animal suffering from our everyday lives, morally that's what we should be doing.
Some could argue that the use of this ivory sceptre is actually a good thing, because without it, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. You and I wouldn't be talking about the use of even horses during the actual ceremony, etc. as well. So maybe something like this, which already exists, again, you know, it's important to say it's not like an elephant that's just been culled for the sake of this thing, that actually now this has brought it to the fore in a way that it wouldn't have been done earlier.
Potentially. They've also missed an opportunity. If Camilla said, because of the conversation around ivory and the fact that it is immoral, if I was to donate this to a museum like the Natural History Museum or to make a statement of it, you and I could still have the same conversation and we could use the sceptre as a statement of why things like ivory belong in the past, belong as a relic of our history, rather than something that we're taking into the modern world as well.
Do you think someone's fundamentally a bad person if they come out and say, you know what, I actually just quite like ivory?
Oh, absolutely. That's an immoral thing that's an immoral position to take, because we're treating animals as commodities, as objects who we can kill just to produce something that we think looks nice.
At the risk, and I teeter on the edge of doing this every single day, but at the risk of going full Alan Partridge.
Yes.
What if the animal's already dead?
Well, it's a supply and demand in many ways. So the sceptre, obviously, that came from an elephant who was killed a long time ago. But again, it's about glamorising it and saying, hang on a minute, this is something that the royal family in Great Britain think is great and they're parading on the national stage. I want to go out and buy some fresh, some new, some virgin ivory, and that will involve animals being killed to produce that.
All right, thank you very much, as ever.
Thank you,
Pleasure to have you in the studio yet again. Earthling Ed there, Ed Winters, good stuff. Right, just quickly, actually, sorry about this, just bring this on you. You know the anointment oil's vegan?
Oh, is it? Great.
Yes, that's a win. Does that change your opinion about the big ivory sceptre?
Absolutely not.
No, OK, fair enough. Thought I'd give it a go. All right, OK, that was Earthling Ed there, in case you're just joining us.